everybody. It is Monday, April 21st, 2025, day of recording this evening, to be exact. We are back with another edition of Make City, Make Spence. Garrett Comat's here, talking today about the week that was for Detroit City FC, two matches that took place. Joyous week, but can't do it alone. Joining me tonight, as always, the creative brains, the technical brains, all of it, for anything major Detroit, Adam Hernandez, and the namesake of Make City, Make Spence, keeper of the pizza minds, architect of words about shapes on Patreon, $3 a month subscription, Sean Spence. Gentlemen, happy Monday. Glad we're back at it.
Forgot the heat of the daddy.
we can leave that one behind. It's okay.
But yeah, great week last week, gents, right?
Yeah, I mean, incredible. Obviously last time we talked about the 3-goal comeback against Phoenix in the, last 5 minutes of the match, which is really an unprecedented, revival for City, I think maybe in their history. And then we had the Open Cup match where we, kind of roared past them at the end. And then the Maxi humiliation ritual, which went, very well. Rhode Island, not looking great so far, and didn't look great against us. I mean, an early red card will do that.
Yeah. So Wednesday, April 16th was Detroit City FC Open Cup versus Westchester SC. A heavily rotated Detroit City FC side, and all 4 goals in the second half took 3-1 to City. Saturday, as mentioned, Rhode Island in the town. Michael Bryant drawing Darcy, I believe, from Rhode Island in the 6th minute with an open hand to the face. And Darren Smith braced magic, and is broken even the right word for Maxi Rodriguez performance, or shattered performance? Holy fuck. 2-0 the final on that. Gentlemen, all 3 of us were at the Open Cup on Wednesday. And the 2 of you got to be at Keyworth also to watch the Rhode Island match in person. I was able to watch it out on the TV. So, Adam, I'll start off with you, and then we'll roll it into Sean. Just kind of more of a deep dive into like how you're feeling about both the matches. Is there of the win, considering the circumstances, that you maybe enjoy more, or is it just on the up and up?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed the win over Rhode Island more. I don't have too much about Westchester just because I had to leave at halftime, and by the time I got home and everything was settled, the match was over. So,
Right.
Obviously, it's good that they won 3-1. I can say this. In that first half, to me, it seemed like, they're just kind of running through the motions. I know they were playing a League One team. To me, it seemed like you saw a lot of the same problems that City has had when it came to, figuring out that final third, putting the ball in the back of the net in that first half. But obviously that was figured out because they scored 3 goals in the second half. One of those being Darren Smith, basically like a pulled goalie in hockey, and he had a wide open net just to bang it home. So, I mean, but obviously it was good that they won. Like I said, I thought that, some of the things that has hampered this team, I thought kind of, reared its ugly head in that first half, but they made their adjustments. They were the better team. They're the more talented team. And they showed that, obviously, it seemed, in the second half. And they ended up coming away with the 3-1 victory and are on to the Chicago Fire in the round of 32. But for Rhode Island, it was one of their best played games, of the season. And it was, maybe one of their best played games that I have ever, seen. Not the best, but one of the best, probably. and obviously that red card in the first half certainly helped. But yeah, they this may have been the most prepared. I will say that I have ever seen this team play heading into a match because they were prepared. Um, Michael Bryant getting goading another player into a red card, which is great. He seems to be really, really good at doing that. Whether it was this Saturday or last season when if it's Philip Goodrum. Uh, but I thought Carlos Herrera played really well. It was a very well put together game, I thought. Uh, Very well prepared heading into that one. And yeah, Maxi certainly looked broken in that game. He didn't look ready to. I don't know if he expected all of that to happen. But I'm a Rhode Island, supporter right now. I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned based on the way that that team has played so far this season, and based, and looking at how your big off-season acquisition is playing right now. Yeah, I would be a little concerned. It's still a long season, but you know,
Yeah. What about you, Sean?
Um, well, I'll get around to Maxi. For me, the Open Cup win was fairly impressive. If for no other reason than like we really rotated. Now, if there's any question about what shape we're going to play in for the rest of the season, I think we need to kind of like the Open Cup should put to rest the idea that we're ever going to play a different shape than the 5-2-1-2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because looking at the lineup, it's like, okay, this is clearly a 4. Like, there's just no way. Like, what are they going to play? Matt Sheldon in the center of defense? So that's exactly what they fucking did.
Yeah.
And he didn't look bad. He kind of played like a libero a little bit. Like would get into more attacking spaces or get into the midfield. Because he's spent his entire career on the flanks. He feels comfortable moving forward with the ball. Shane and Michael really just kind of seamlessly would kind of slide back into it too when he would move in and then widen back out when he'd come back to a position. Really pretty impressive, I thought, for a team that was playing an absolutely rotated lineup. Now, they did get the goal back. It was like one of those kind of situations where you're kind of grinding and grinding and grinding. You finally get the goal, and then they immediately get like a golazo on the other end. And it was, it was one of those shots that's 0.03 xg. Like one out of 30 is going in, and that was the one. But really, once we brought the first teamers on, once we brought Darren and Jay on, we looked entirely different and were able to create chances kind of constantly. The second goal came from Atis Juf, drawing a penalty with that kind of like, you're a quick dude when you put the ball on your, typically you want to keep the ball away from a marker, right? You want them to have to come through your body to get to it. But he's trying to entice them into biting at the ball, right? So he keeps the ball on the near foot, like on his right foot when he's got a guy on that side, and just is confident that he can, out, like he can beat the tackle. He can see it coming and out quick him, and he does it constantly. And that's what won the penalty, and that's what he's been able to do it consistently every performance. Every time he's come on the pitch. So it was pretty impressive, I thought. Darren obviously shows that he's hungry for goals. And really, I think my main goal for this evening is walking back my criticism of Jay Chapman last time, because, well, okay, so here's the thing for me. Like I look at Jay and I think that my criticism was not like entirely unfounded. I don't think he doesn't have a lot of bite. He's not But we're trying to play a different way this year. We're trying to keep the ball. And we really need somebody who can find the right pass to put the ball in a dangerous position, the pass before the pass guy. And Jay really, I mean, over these last couple of matches, and I'm probably watching him a lot because I'm like, I went back and rewatched the Phoenix match, and I was like, okay, well, I was overly critical there. And yeah, he was fantastic, and really, if you go back and look at the final 20 minutes, we go from really kind of dominating the ball to dominating the match once Jay and Darren come on. So yeah, it was. I thought it was a good performance. Now, in Rhode Island, okay, so I don't think Maxi played that terribly. Honestly, I think he played. He didn't have a great match, but none of them had a great match. They were down a man almost before they had their feet under them, really. And it kind of became one of those matches where it's like, all right, well, we're kind of getting dragged here. They did not seem enthused. And I think that Connor Smith just pulled Maxi at halftime just out of kind of like, I'm going to kind of protect his sense of self. Because, like, okay, so people who weren't at the match on Saturday, like, you need to understand that this wasn't like a couple people were yelling at Maxi. Like, okay, as the guys were out warming up, the supporter side is there's always the drums like so people are just turning that into going fuck you Maxi, fuck you Maxi for like 10 minutes, right? It's just
before kickoff.
It's just going on and on and on and on. At first I feel like they're kind of like ha ha ha. Look at wow, they're really doing the thing. Look at that, Maxi. But it didn't stop. Like they I've never seen Keyworth do the booga player every time they get a touch thing, but they did.
That was awesome. Yeah. That was so fucking good.
And I think that it was pretty clear that whatever he was envisioning happening upon his return was not going to happen. And he looked really upset that he was pulled. He didn't seem thrilled to be out of the match. But too bad. Like, could have resigned with us, bro. And yeah, I mean, it was really like it was a fantastic performance in a lot of levels, and I think it did illustrate that. Like, I think the guys were particularly up for this. They really did not want to lose to Maxi, yeah, we had some as Adam had some players saying, hey, you got those Maxi buttons, I want to make sure I get some of those, the making fun of Maxi buttons. So like there's obviously a little edge there, but it's hard to be very critical about what's happening on the pitch right now. It's also, but I think we shouldn't get over our skis really drawing a lot of conclusions about thumping Rhode Island, because they were down a man. They tried to play coherently and created a couple half chances, but really were put in a terrible position on the road and didn't outperform it. So red cards change games pretty dramatically.
I think I'm a little bit shocked because I think I've seen us with a man advantage a few times, granted not this early into a match, and really struggled to break down a side. And the fact that we kept the aggression on and got the goals, and probably should have been up maybe by more than two because unfortunately Jesse Cedeno and the woodwork did not get along on Saturday. I thought that was kind of the impressive part in there to me, but I did like what Darren Smith's post-match interview, where he was talking about apparently Danny not happy with the guys at halftime because they started to let up a little bit and wanting to keep whether it's the foot on the gas or the direct aggressive approach to counter how aggressive Rhode Island was, because they went down to 10 men early, but it seems like they stepped up their attack on Michael even more. I hadn't seen Michael take a beating like that in a match consistently down. Like, it was almost like, oh, you got our guy, I'll fuck you even more. And I was like,
yeah, there's probably some of that. I think that if I'm guessing, I didn't talk to Danny, that the concern is like, you don't want them to build confidence and build back into the match. And you let your foot off the pedal. Next thing you know, you give up a fluky goal, and now you're shitting it, and they're feeling transcendent. So you have to keep pushing. Even though like getting the 2 goals in 3 minutes, like we did, like we get the red card, and like 7 minutes later, it's like goal. Like, okay, wow, this thing looks done, right? 20 minutes in, like, we're up 2-0, we're up a man. I think the biggest difference for this group, up a man, is that they really are good at keeping the ball. And that's not been like we've been good over the course of our USL Championship, time. We've been good for a random turnover. You could kind of do that nuisance press where you're pressing us in attacking spaces, but you're not pressing hard. You're just sort of waiting for us to kind of flub a pass, and like that worked against us a lot previously. It doesn't seem like this group is giving the ball away that routinely, and that's part of that. The Jay Chapman difference. I guess we can give up a little bite if he's gonna just not turn the ball. He doesn't have to make up for turning the ball over, because he doesn't. And he's not completely. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that the team looks extremely confident with Darren Smith playing up top too. As that finisher in that final third, something they haven't had in quite some time. I mean, you looked at last year when before Alvis Amo got hurt, it seemed like that was going to be that missing piece. But he never really recovered. It seemed like when he suffered that injury against North Carolina earlier on in the season. Knock on wood that Darren Smith doesn't, suffer a similar injury to that, or something that keeps him out long term. But the squad does look, very, very confident with him up top, and I don't know if that's feeding into things right now. But sorry to interrupt.
I think it's absolutely true. Finding a guy who's in good form and can finish does kind of make the whole game a lot easier. I'm sure that everyone's feeling pretty great about the fact that if you create a good move and Darren winds up on the end of it, he's probably going to finish it. It's not going to be like, oh darn. And I think the depth of this team is pretty dramatically better than anything we've seen before.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, like talking about a guy like Haruki Yamazaki started the Open Cup match. I thought played really well.
Yep.
Didn't even make the bench for Rhode Island. Ates Juf keeps coming on and looking outstanding in short performances. Started from the beginning at the Open Cup match, looked good. Dom Gasso looked solid as a pure stopper there in the middle of the park. Yeah, I mean, it's just really all arrows up right now. This is they put together a good talented group, and the coaches are starting to figure out how the pieces can fit together. And having the one piece up top makes a massive difference. It kind of takes the pressure off everyone else. Like, everyone doesn't have to scrunch up their face and try extra hard. It's like we can just play football and he'll finish it. Awesome.
Do we want to do 3 stars LeRouge for each match, or do you want to do one cumulative 3 stars LeRouge for both? What are we feeling on here? I can go either or.
Shit.
You're the host, man.
All right, each.
Okay, so Open Cup match. I'm going to say Ates Juf. Um, uh, third,
Yep.
looked good. I'm going to go with Matt Sheldon second, just mostly in the disparity between his anticipated performance and his actual performance, and which was incredible. And man of the match. I mean, it's not Darren. Maybe Jay, Shane Wheat. Everybody was good. Shit, I'm gonna say Shane Wheat.
All right. So we got Westchester done. You want to do Rhode Island now, or do we want Adam to do Westchester?
Let's stick with Westchester and then do a round of Rhode Islands.
I'm gonna abstain from Westchester just because I didn't see the second half.
Okay. For me, third star for Westchester, Maury Donor. I really like anyone who plays the left or the right wing backs, and we've seen Reese, Maury, and Michael on the right side. We've seen Alex and Reese on the left. They each have their own little style, and what I like about Maury is that direct whether it's him or getting the ball in to places where people can do something in a great goal. Glad to see him get something on that. Otisdorf is second for me. That pace, you got to see how that pace can change matches, create moments, buzzing around, being in all over. That run that he did to win the penalty in the second half was pretty. Westchester was I kept referring to them as trees, tall people.
They were large dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So you use Otis with that pace can get around the trees, and boom.
I think he had done that same thing a couple of times to the guy. I think he had a pretty clear idea, like, okay, I can beat this guy this way, and it was pretty much immediately after their goal, wasn't it? Like they scored, and then we kind of came back and scored.
Yeah, it was like 5-10 minutes. It was like 5-10 minutes.
Fairly quickly. Like he was, the next time he got the ball on that left flank, he put it right on his right foot and just teased the guy into it. Like,
then switched to his left and got taken down on the touchline.
Right. Well, and he just basically he switched. He didn't. I don't think he was so much switching to his left as seeing the guy was about to go in and just kind of switching it to his other side of his body so that he'd have to go through him. Right. And he sure did.
Star number one for me is Haruki Yamazaki.
Okay. Nice.
Man of match, and not only that, listen to that post-match interview and just see the happiness that dude gets from playing football. That dude relished that moment, and yes, I think it sucks that he didn't make the Saturday for Rhode Island. Hopefully, he's in for the next match we're going to be talking about after that. Rhode Island time.
Wait, Sean, who's your first star for Westchester again?
Shane Wheat.
Shane.
2 defenders. Even though we gave up a goal to a League One team, I don't know. My brain hardly works. Brain just barely works. What can I do? Okay, so we're doing Rhode Island.
Yep.
Okay, so Darren Smith is man of the match to me, so I'm kind of not doing 3-2-1. There's something special about the guy with the sword. He's got the sword. Number 2, Jay Chapman for me. Really, paying attention to him pretty intensely throughout that match, and does just knit the different pieces of the team together, and in a reliable way. The center backs can do big switches and stuff, but a lot of times it's kind of 50-50. Whether the connection is going to happen. And with Jay, it's more like 75-25. Like he can, his 30-yard balls are pretty much on the money. And then my third player of the match, Uh, Michael Bryant. Um, you know, when the shit housing begins, Michael is in his element, and I think we need to put a little more sugar on his ability to shit house and delve into the dark arts, because it seems to be he's pretty persuasive at getting people to punch him in the face. So what a skill. Um,
What about
I think, and City has one. So
well, sorry, I think you went quiet in that moment.
yeah, I got super quiet.
Hold on. Do you hear me?
Yeah, now I got
Better.
you.
Better.
Okay. I was going to say every professional team needs a shithouser.
Oh man,
Yeah.
Diego Costa. You guys remember that dude? I think he's still playing.
Fucking Diego Costa.
But like the dude is shit housing like the first 2 seconds of the match. He's doing some bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But like if he was on your team, you'd fucking love that shit,
Mm-hmm.
He is being aggravating every moment, like a kid brother, like with glee, and yeah, I think Michael has a little bit of that where he's like, if he spots a little like emotional weakness in a dude, he'll just kind of keep fucking with him. And yeah, it worked out pretty well for us this time.
All right, Adam. Who are your three?
Number 3, I'm going to go with Connor Rutt.
Ciao.
Again, I'm just very, very impressed with the way Connor's just been playing really since the second half of last season. Jesse Daniel. We were kind of talking about this too Saturday. Just how much more comfortable he looks this season. You could see why they brought him back. I know it may have been somewhat of a surprise when they ended up bringing him back, but I think we can see why they brought him back now. And I remember, Sean, you were talking about, just the difficulties, he may have faced, given the type of player that he is, kind of that creator coming into a new system and, new team. And in him, I don't know why this keeps doing this. Shit keeps on going back and forth between. Do you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
I hear you good.
I could hear it switch microphones.
Just about how difficult it may have been for Cedeno to acclimate himself, as a creator, last season as opposed to this season. So it, again, very, very effective on Saturday. And then Darren Smith.
Yeah.
No need to elaborate on that one. Darren Smith was incredible.
One of the things we were talking about, and that's something I just remembered because you started talking about Jesse L, is that we haven't really, since we've been professional, City hasn't developed players. We've bought guys who are kind of in the prime of their career, and we let them display their wares, right? We haven't done the thing where you buy a guy who's a little young and not quite there, and work with them and bring him into the team and all that. And we are starting to do that now. And so Jesse L is a great example of that, where he's really on the fringes of the team last year, but they, the mind trust, Danny and Trev and everybody were like, okay, he's got something that could go to another level pretty easily, I think, and so, that's what last year was trying to get him kind of acclimated and up to that level. And we're seeing them reap the results this year. Similarly, it's kind of difficult, I think, to remember that Dom Gasso is really young. What is it? He's 21, I think he'll turn 22 this year. So he's really, he's just kind of in the middle of the early part of his journey as a pro, and it's not entirely unusual for him to need to go out on loan to get minutes. And I think it's possible we might see that again, especially now that everybody's got film of him looking pretty good as they're pasting a League One team, because that's probably where he'd wind up going. Played at Huntsville last year and was good for them. So, it's exciting to see us developing players, and we just need to go that next step and create an all the way pathway. Get the academy kids on the tractor feed and get one or two a year.
Alex Villanueva would be another one of those too, Sean.
Yeah,
correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Came in, was going to kind of split time with Levi, but I mean, clearly the plan was like, okay, Brett's going to get hurt at some point because he's Brett Levi's, and we've got a young guy ready to kind of like fight for minutes with them. And I think by halfway through the season, it was kind of like, okay, well, the young guy's better. Like, Brett, you're just gonna sorry. And it's great. It was great, that they came in with a plan to develop the guy and didn't just like throw him to the wolves. Like, okay, Alex, you're the starter. We don't really have a backup. You're the only left-footed person on the roster. Sorry. Which we've seen teams built that way.
It was especially good for Alex too, because it seemed like Orange County gave up on him, and we were able to take him and
100%,
and just get something out of him that Orange County wasn't able to. Right. So that's really a good testament to Trevor and the coaching staff, Danny, and everything that they were able to do with him.
Right, and I think that they. Alex had that thing that happens to young players where they'll come up in a certain position and then they're not getting enough minutes there. So the coach starts kind of just throwing him in wherever, like he's playing on the wing, he's like they just kind of were trying to get him minutes all over the place. And I think, what winds up happening is you kind of just get scrambled, you're kind of like, okay. And we didn't do that at all. Alex has come in and played left wing back, and has gone about the process of like learning that craft really, really diligently. You can see the difference in his positioning, in his awareness, in his ball retention from last year to this year, like night and day. He looked like a young player last year when he joined us, really. Mm-hmm. And then, it looked so promising down the stretch. Everybody's like, ooh, look at this guy. And he is living up to that praise. And like really legitimately could be a guy who's talked about for like a best 11. If he plays at this level for a whole season. He looks fantastic.
I'm going to go, I was torn on star number 3 between Connor and Michael. I'm going to go Michael just because creating the man advantage with going into the red card, playing a little bit higher up in the right wing back, being involved with the first goal, because if I'm not mistaken, ball went in the box. It was Michael's with the first header over the Devon to Darren, I believe, if I recall that. So I don't
remember who had the initial header,
but I think Michael was back post on that. And it was a tough one because I thought Connor up top did something really, really well for in getting creating that space for Darren. But I'll go Michael for third star. Jesiel Cedeno, number 2. I feel for that dude not getting a goal because, I mean, that second one where he's going against himself, falls down, uses his weak foot, and hits it literally a quarter an inch the other way, and that thing's in, and it's 3-0. And I was like, that was the one that impressed me even more than the screamer that hit. I think they hit the crossbar, and went down. But just playing well, and it's really it's really refreshing to see that guy in us have a guy in the hole that can dictate and be an influence, and great penalty in the week too. Like somebody put their foot through and converted a penalty that way, rather than these little
8,000 hesitations.
Yeah, Sean, you heard me bitch about that on Wednesday for other teams.
wait for the goalkeeper to like die of old age and then shoot. Like perfect.
Yeah,
brought the drama.
Jesse L just fucking mashed it in the corner, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, I really am like, okay, well, like let's just kind of go on a little glazing expedition here, because I mean, there's like, I cannot remember a time when City had this many players in good form. It's not just that we haven't fluked results. Overturning that lead at Phoenix wasn't down to a bunch of breaks. They shut off, but we, stormed at them and created, golden chances one after the other to justly win that match. And then against Westchester, we rotated the squad like completely, like it's kind of playing time for everybody. And these are professionals, this is not like Motown FC, who's like, they're guys who were great in college or a couple years out of college, like who play together sometimes. It's a whole different thing than like a professional team. And this was a professional team, and we just held them at arm's length like a little brother. And then the Rhode Island match, like I say not to get over your skis, but like there weren't any bad performances again. And that's remarkable, really, to go 180 minutes and not have anybody that you're like, I don't know about that guy. Like pretty much everybody who got time made the most of their time, looked good in their time. Like I feel like if Danny went into Wednesday rotating guys thinking, this will eliminate some decisions for me, and like just the opposite happened. Like everybody looks pretty good. Like, damn, all right, well, you're gonna have to actually pick who's best.
I remember you talking about. I was going to say, I remember you talking about Cedeno too, Sean, Saturday, because he skied one over the net. I think it was in the second half, and he skied it with his opposite foot. And I think I thought I remember you saying, well, wow, he is pretty confident, to take that shot with his opposite foot where he was.
Guys using both feet. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that like, okay, so there are a lot of players. It's not an unusual profile for an attacking midfielder, especially, to be super tricky and able to unlock other guys. But when it comes time to finish, they kind of just don't strike the ball like that, because that's not how they like. It's like they're so used to caressing the ball that they can't like just punch it. You know what I mean? And I wondered early on if Jesse L was one of those guys where like he's going to create a lot of chances and stuff, but when it comes time to shoot, what you get a lot of times is like kind of just a tame squibbler, or something kind of creative, but that usually gets saved. And what we're seeing last couple matches as he gets more confident is like, no, that was just him kind of lacking confidence and being like a quarter step off the pace. When he has confidence, he can put his foot through the ball. And yeah, I mean, it's good to see. It's wonderful to see. I think that we have reason to think that this is a team that could do its possible upside is not really even visible at this point.
Right. Darren Smith, to continue the glazing, star number 1. 6 goals in 7 games.
Sing it.
5 goals in the last 3. Consecutive braces in USL Championship match days. Instinctual. Clinical. Doesn't need much space. It's just been so long since we've had that guy up top like that, to just be like, okay, he's in a spot, something could happen here. And 2 different goals. Darren, for the opener, did the left-footed version of the right-footed one. He did to open his account against Phoenix.
Yep.
The second one, Connor with a
the second one is the one to me. It was like, oh, you're kind of doing the Italian hand thing, like, oh, it's so good, it's so good.
Because like, Connor plays this outside to inside direct ball that's cutting through.
Yeah, Connor's ball was like sumptuous too. Really fantastic.
And Darren is eyeballing that fucking thing the whole time. And we've seen so many guys take the first touch. Darren just gets himself, he sees Koke Vegas, Rhode Island's goalkeeper, who was hella aggressive in his approach the entire match. And Darren's like, doink. And it was just side foot, one hits it, waits for the perfect bounce. And again, I think something I've talked about before, playing on turf before, knowing bounces.
Exactly. Oh, that is a great point. That is, you would on grass that would bounce entirely differently.
Yeah.
But he knows, yeah, he's played enough on turf just for it to be automatic. Yeah, great point.
So that is fucking awesome. And my only concern that I have on their Saturday, and I think it'll get alleviated, Jordan Albaez-Smith with a similar moment, not getting the ball up on there. I feel like I've come up with when it comes to Artest and Jordan, I'm referring to them as the fastest fuck boys. I think Artest is the one with a little bit more confidence right now in form, and it seems like because he's kind of like, even when his little shift on Saturday was playing a little bit deeper. I think Jordan will. I think once Jordan gets an assist on there, he'll be fine. It's just going to be like he's got to get that one though.
Yeah, he's lacking confidence, and we've consistently tried to. The last couple of times we've seen him, they've played him as an off the shoulder, like sprinting forward, and used him to pull defenses out of shape. And the thing that's frustrating about that is that when you don't have confidence, that is a very direct competition for the ball. And USL championship defenders are not like small people typically, and they're very physical. And so when you don't have confidence, you don't go into those challenges. Like you kind of can see that Jordan expects for them to win the ball off of him, when it's a 50-50, because the ball's been lumped forward. He kind of expects, and it's just confidence. Like, the finish that he just scooped into Vegas's stomach instead of putting home that's just confidence, or not Vegas.
Vegas, yeah, Vegas was Rhode Island's keeper, Koke Vegas.
Yeah, but he didn't start against. Oh wait, sorry. No, okay. I've watched these three matches kind of back to back. It's sort of I've got a blur of city football in my brain right now.
Yeah, you're good.
So anyway, I think it's just confidence. I guess he's the one exception, and possibly Ben. Although I think Ben is just sort of having to find he was basically the main guy last year. He was the striker we were trying to feed, and he's not that now. So he's got to find a way to contribute consistently. Otherwise, and I'm sure he will. He's an incredibly bright footballer, who's I really, if this is my football manager save, I'd be feeling like, yeah, baby, we're gonna roll these bitches. Like,
I need to give, not that I love always giving shout outs to my channel 451 Hermano Jaime Ventura, but I do need to give him a shout out because he half nailed a prediction of Michael Bryant goading somebody into a red card for Rhode Island. He just thought it was going to be Maxi instead of Ndarzi, but still, I'm like, when that happened, I'm like, you son of a bitch.
We got the red card, and then and that allowed Maxi to stay out there to get his soul like battered for 45 minutes until he had to seek solace at the end of the bench, looking angry.
Before Adam, I'm going to open you the opportunity before we get into the League Cup. If there anything that you want to talk about that the Maxi, it may especially maybe from the supporters' perspective that unique perspective that you have a little bit more, like being on that side of it and kind of seeing how that goes after this return to Keyworth and being benched at halftime, et cetera, all this and just getting eviscerated by the crowd.
First, just real quick, I want to talk. I want to mention something too about the confidence issues maybe with Jordan and one play in particular. It looked like he took like one too many touches in that second half before he shot the ball. Again, perhaps a confidence issue, and also not so much a confidence issue, maybe a little too much confidence in Darren Smith. There's one play in particular too, where Reese, which this is Reese. I mean, this is part of Reese's game though, where he's more of a pass first guy instead of a shoot guy. He opted to try to get one into Darren instead of taking the shot when I think he had a much better shot than Darren did. But again, I think that's if I remember correctly, that's something that has been just part of Reese's game ever since he's been a professional, and that's what he does. He's more of a pass first guy. He's the Igor Larionov of Detroit City, a pass first instead of a
great reference.
It's like it's like in any sport where scoring is a thing. You get a guy with a hot hand. And the whole team kind of starts to go, okay, well, just fucking get him the ball, it's sort of that particular play. I think we talked about it in real time. Like that felt very much like Reese was like, Darren, do your thing, man. and Darren did not, and he was like, oh. Yeah, and you were like, I think he had a better shot than Darren did.
Yeah.
But,
that's fine. They're already up by 2 anyway, and they're pressing again, so it was good to see it. But again, as far as the supporters go, that was supporters were prepared for that one. I will say this too. I feel bad for Maxi coming back to Keyworth, especially with how things ended. The supporters, from everyone that I talked to, they were perfectly willing to leave everything on the pitch, and kind of embrace Maxi at the end there, and it didn't happen. So I think supporters are a little bit more salty about that. So when he does return, if things could be worse for Maxi, they very well may be worse for Maxi when he does return, whenever that is. I don't think he comes back again anytime this season unless there's some type of playoff match.
I'm trying to imagine, because I think playoffs would be the next time he would play Keyworth, and I'm trying to imagine the intensity of like the viciousness that would be displayed
and it's
him in a like a knockout game,
it's
November football. Fuck.
It's gonna be incredibly vicious and something like, and I'm honestly, I'm shocked.
I was a little surprised. I didn't know if NGS still had it in him.
I'm going to say this,
being straight with you,
because I think Shauna asked you, and hearing from you both of you tonight, who have been around this much longer than I have, if there was ever this type of vitriol towards a former player who was very much beloved on this team,
the straw that stirs the drink.
If there was ever like this before, ever, and I don't think any of you guys could, were, came up with that.
We had a guy who played for his first year, I think, who played for Ann Arbor or Lansing after that. Stephon Saint something.
Stephon Saint Louis.
Yeah. Okay. So he came back, I think, with Lansing, maybe. I don't know. But and got the treatment. Um, but this is, Maxi's on another level. I mean, he played for us for 4 years. Like, that's a long time.
Yeah, and it's
in professional football. And he went from being an aspiring starter to being a all league kind of dominator over his time with us. And so yeah, this is a different thing. Him coming back here, I think that he probably expected that his excellent play was going to have more sway in the reception. And but the fact is, like, you decided to go somewhere else, and I've kind of talked about my affection for Liverpool FC, and I think a similar thing will happen to Trent Alexander-Arnold if he does decide to go to Real Madrid, because this is you were part of us and you just kind of shunned us. Like, okay, well, we're not gonna be happy with that. And of course, in the case of Alexander-Arnold, you further colluded with the largest team in the world to prevent them having to pay a transfer fee, where like sign and trades are, you could very easily do that in football. If you wanted to make sure Liverpool got paid for him, he could have worked out all that out in advance, be like, okay, look, my whatever. So I'm going off about Trent Alexander-Arnold. What I'm saying is that Maxi, this is his bed. Hopefully he can, triumph over this and use this as motivation. Because I don't like to see anybody hurting, and he was kind of clearly hurting on the bench there.
Yeah,
and I feel like we said this, and Adam, you kind of mentioned this in the winter when there was, to go back to glazing, every USL Championship outlet, John Morrissey's, the Michael Batistas, these guys in here, and you made a point like, yeah, the deal that Rhode Island gave Maxi Rodriguez was for was for previous accomplishments in that. And are you going to be potentially getting that same value now out of it? To the point where even in John Morrissey's recap about Rhode Island, it's April 21st here this weekend. And he's already asking, is this actually, regret over the deal? And it's like a lot earlier than I think maybe anyone would expect that, especially if you're Rhode Island and the amount of money you throw on acquisitions.
I mean, it's the simplest psychology of all, right? It's your ex thriving, after you dumped him for a bigger, better deal, and yeah, it's the it is what it is. Like, sorry, man.
Yeah, and it. I mean, I don't know what everybody else was.
Goodness.
Yeah, I don't know what everybody else was expecting with Maxi, if he was going to be a better player. I mean, where he is in his career right now, where he is age wise, in any sport really. I mean, it's just not possible for something like that to happen. You don't see that. You don't see a better. You don't see a player. Yeah, you don't see a player typically get better when they are over 30. Yeah. That's when
only one I can think of is only one I can ever think of was Miroslav Klose, German striker. Only one I can think of.
I always think about like how you're placed in a team. Like, every team is a different puzzle, right? And the pieces all fit different ways, and like you can. And sometimes a guy will find the thing that just fits him perfectly, and he's 32, and it, like you'll see a jump. The thing with Maxi is that it seems like we kind of know where he plays best, and we've seen him improve like steadily, and that's steadily year after year, without really changing his profile at all, just getting better at the stuff he does. And so I think you kind of reach a limit where you need to be able to add another thing. You need a third heat, to to climb to another level, and that's very difficult to do, especially when you're in your peak years. You're kind of past the point where the new tricks are easy to learn. And yeah, I don't know. I suspected, as I said before, that we had gotten the best years of Maxi's career, and I hope that he can go on to make that a less certain prophecy.
And I think something that the John Morrisseys of the world, and John Morrissey is obviously, he knows his shit when it comes to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, whether or not asking whether or not it's a good deal or not. I mean, yeah, you could ask me last year and I would say, I'm glad City stayed away from it. However, when you look at Rhode Island's case here, I mean, they were playing without Ybarra, and Deke
Right.
was also not in the lineup. So
Right.
you could start to make those judgments and everything once those guys are back in the lineup.
Exactly.
And
Once
they start
Maxi
playing at home.
and
Yeah,
once
'cause
they
haven't
start
been.
playing, yeah. Now that's not a ringing endorsement of Maxi, and things are going to be okay, because obviously there's going to be some still some concern there with, okay, well, can Maxi manage all of this when the best players aren't around him? But still, I think it is still only April, because we said that about City before. It's only fair to say it about some of these other teams around the league as well who aren't playing as well, like a Rhode Island. It is still only April. Let's see how
Right.
things kind of play out with it. Again, I've already said my piece regarding it. I don't think things are going to work out as well as as well as people think with Maxi and Rhode Island. But again, you gotta let these things kind of, transpire, let people get healthy, and let people get acclimated to new
Yeah.
systems. Did I think, though, that Maxi was going to be without an assist at this point with Rhode Island at the very, very least? No, I didn't. But
Well, I want you to imagine City never signed Darren Smith. That's kind of Rhode Island without Albert Dequa. Like, okay, so let's say if we're playing that match, but Deke was healthy, and it plays out just the way it had through 20 minutes. We're up 2-0, we're up a man. We are still kind of worried about Dequa getting loose behind us and scoring.
Also opens up more space for JJ Williams too, because he's got his partner.
Exactly. And for Maxi. So
Fuse on too.
I just think that all these things are combinatory, and we right now we are showing that when we're healthy, and when we are intelligent and flexible, which is increasingly the thing at the highest levels in football, right? We're coming out of the systems era and more into a where the systems are kind of like fractions of what would previously be a system. You think about like tiki taka. It's this all-encompassing commitment to like touches on the ball and keeping the ball and winning the ball. Like as soon as you lose the ball, you win it back, and then pass. It's all-encompassing. It determines how everyone must play, kind of.
I think
that sort of thing is falling out of favor. To a sort of because all of those systems, every rigid system, has some way it can be exploited. So, and we're in an era where that kind of analysis is kind of trivial to do anymore. Where it was maybe 20 years ago, it'd be pretty much way more difficult, right? You didn't have every match available online. You didn't have all this information. You didn't have data.
Yeah.
I say 20, maybe 30 years ago. Okay. And so what we're seeing is the game is evolving into sort of little like smaller subgroups, and a very like pragmatic posture being the default successful approach. And it's funny that like we have always been pretty direct, you know. We don't try to keep the ball a lot. And this side seems like they want to really kind of think about what tempo they're playing at. And they'll, you know, they yo-yo it intentionally more than I can remember City doing a lot, except when Maxi was really in his pomp and he would get into that kind of stuff, slowing it down, speeding it up.
Yeah. Adam, you made a good point about it only being April, and I'm going to use this as a way to segue into what we got coming up this weekend. While it's only April, here are the teams in the Eastern Conference from rock bottom to sixth place. The sixth place team being who we have on Saturday in the opening of our Jägermeister League Cup. Bottom of the Eastern Conference, 6 matches played, 1 win, 5 losses, Tampa Bay Rowdies. In 11th place,
astonishing.
had a lead against Louisville, gave up 2 quick ones, lost 1-2 at home. 11th place with their first win of the season this weekend, Hartford Athletic, but have only scored 2 goals in 5 games. Rhode Island are 10th, 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses. They're home. They will be finally at home in their new shiny stadium next weekend. And yeah, what's that going to mean for their table? Who knows? Indy 11 in 9th, 1 win, 2 draws, 2 losses, scored 9, allowed 10. We play them next weekend in our return to USL Championship, which we'll preview then. 8th place. We've talked about them enough with the amount of money that they spent, and they've already made a coaching change. Birmingham Legion, 1 win, 2 draws, 3 losses, 7 scored, 10 allowed. Miami FC, who all of a sudden have won 2 games, which is almost as many as they won all of fucking last year. 2 wins, 4 losses, 6 goals scored, 10 goals allowed. And in 6th place, a team who usually made a little bit more of a splash sign in the offseason than we were surprised at this. 2 wins, a draw, 3 losses, lost at Loudoun United this past weekend, and coming to Keyworth for Jägermeister League Cup this Saturday, April 26th, 4 p.m. Pittsburgh Riverhounds. The supporters, what I call in USL Championship for Detroit City FC. Is that Soda Pop or Pony Boy?
That's Pony Boy.
Pony Boy!
His treats time. Yeah, he's kind of singing to me in the kitchen there.
Give him his treats, Sean.
Yeah.
As soon as we're done, he's getting treats.
So we've learned that when it comes to Detroit City FC, Indy 11 seems to be the players hated the match that the players do not get along with the other team. That's their like number one, like rah, let's fucking go get something out of this. When it comes to the supporters in USL Championship for Detroit City FC, it's Pittsburgh Riverhounds, Steel Army, Northern Guard, all that. Well, now a opener in this Jägermeister League Cup. I feel like 1, because it's League Cup, and 2, because it's this rivalry, form may be thrown out the window here. Gentlemen, how do you feel about that and about this matchup on Saturday?
Go ahead, Sean.
My mic is acting weird. I have been disappointed by the Steel Army's insistence on being classist, inhumane bags of shit online. But I respect that they, support their team in their tiny stadium. The Riverhounds are tough. Are tough to play against, right? It's always a tough match. I mean, we've had some success against them, but not a lot, and it's never felt easy, right? We don't play. I think we have a whole week off after this, right?
We're back at league play on the 3rd, 7 days.
So there's no real reason to rotate exactly, this would be the match where we determine how many, like, what resources we're putting toward this. In some ways, if Pittsburgh beats us, then we're kind of like, you know, it's a new cup. Like, let's keep focusing on the Open Cup and the league. And if we can do well in this, let's do that. But if we win this convincingly and like take control of the group, then it's like, well, I mean, there's silverware here and money. So yeah, I'm interested to see how we do. And Pittsburgh they're all over the place right now.
Yep.
I don't know what to expect, except that I'm sure they'll be, prepared.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what type of form we open up with, what type of lineup we open up with. Because we've never done a League Cup before, or this is something that's new to us within this
Right.
in this sense. I mean, I don't know which way Danny's going to go with things. If it is going to be rotated, if he's going to go with the regular, starting 11 that we usually see in league play. But like Sean said, I mean, games against the Riverhounds never come easy. I don't expect
Nope.
this one to come easy. Even though I think Bob Lilly's a little overrated as a coach. So
I mean, but he does keep getting, like the way they came back last year. Like, that
Yes.
was impressive.
It was
Yeah.
impressive.
And
I'm talking about from a championship standpoint.
right.
Guy doesn't have any hardware. I don't think.
Yeah.
Not from what I last seen, but
This is a
But
league
like
where
I said-
it's really easy to dump some money and get some silverware. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
the payrolls aren't that high, and that does seem to happen where there's a team that'll buy a bunch of good players for a couple of years and be super dominant, and then they stop and what happens to Rowdies happens, right?
the year that they had that, that seemingly that team that they, when Albert Deagle was on their squad,
Right.
Best regular
ran-
season record ever.
yeah, they ran into a juggernaut in Detroit City FC.
Exactly. That team was so much better than our team, like man for man, in terms of, like, if you're just looking at the roster, like, if you were on FIFA and looking at the overall, but like, well, man, we're getting smoked. But what they didn't plan on is is being dominated by history, and that's what happened that day.
They didn't
The
plan
tide
on
of history is behind Detroit City. The wind is at our back.
the chaos that Yazid Matthews brought that second half, and
Yes, yeah.
that lightning strike from Dom Gasso.
And Dom Gasso, if he never makes another Detroit City appearance, he will still, like, have free beer for the rest of his life at city events because of that. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
Riverhounds.
I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect from the Riverhounds in this one. How Lily's going to rotate his squad, if he does rotate his squad, because we've seen what seems to be a pretty typical Pittsburgh Riverhounds team so far this season, as far as kind of an up and down year.
Augustine
from
Williams,
them.
their big signing, only one goal. I mean, to
Yeah.
me, it's their big signing.
So, I mean, who knows? It's one of those games where it's just unexpected. You don't know what's going to happen just because it's something that is going to be new for both sides. Not only do you have, the Open Cup to contend with, but now you have the Jägermeister Cup as well. So, I don't know how Lily's going to, manage it. I don't know how Dickio's going to manage it.
are we going to treat it like, the Carabao Cup and, like, send, like, all the Z teamers? Or are we going to, like, okay, well, silverware, like,
Yeah. If it's starting 11 versus starting 11, then yeah, I'll go with City, 1-0 in this one. A very hard fought, scrappy 1-0 win for City.
Who
So.
gets it?
Is it redundant to say Darren Smith is going to get it?
I mean,
At
it's
this
the new
point,
death
I
and
mean,
tax. It's the new death and taxes. I think.
Right.
death taxes Darren Smith goal, if not a brace. I'm going to keep on picking. I might as well just keep on picking Darren Smith at some point to score a goal if he, until he doesn't score any more goals.
Yep.
Sean Spence, what say you, brother?
I think Detroit City win 3-0. I think that we are potentially ready to kind of lift off a little bit and become really one of the big teams in the East. Not like a scrappy team, but Louisville and Charleston and us.
Who are your scorers?
Okay. Ryan Williams gets a free kick goal. And Darren and Shane.
Oh, against his former team.
Yep.
Love to see it. All right.
What I'm saying, one from Ryan, one from probably like a corner for Shane. And Darren just doing that second goal against Rhode Island. That was people have talked about him, reminding them of Jean-Claude Lawson, and that reminded me of Jean-Claude Lawson.
Yeah,
and he's now understand he's much he's a superior player. Obviously, he has mobility that Sean would would be better for. But a similar sense of the ball bounced and you had a feeling that he had kind of locked in, I know how I'm going to finish this, and he was no longer stressed. He hadn't struck the ball, hadn't really even started his main motion to kick the ball, but he had figured out, he'd seen the timing, he'd seen the space, oh, this is happening. And Sean is the last City player I can remember looking like that. And yeah, it was fucking awesome.
All right, so we got a 1-0 for Adam, 3-0 for Sean, which would be really cool because in the 7 previous matchups that Pittsburgh Riverhounds and Detroit City FC have had, Detroit City have scored a total of 3 goals. So there's been 2 1-1s, 2 0-0s, and 2 Pittsburgh Riverhound 2-0 wins. Saturday, to me, will be the first Detroit City FC 2-0 win. Darren Smith, Ben Morris.
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought about Ben.
And then, so that'll be 4 p.m. because I thought it was going to be 7. I thought it was the first night game, but no. 4 p.m. Saturday, April 26th. Keyworth Stadium. If you're unable to be at the match, it'll be on TV 50 in the Southeast Michigan area, ESPN Plus, or the CBS Detroit website for any state of the Michigan residents. As Adam mentioned earlier, Round 4 of the Open Cup, Detroit City FC drew at Chicago Fire. That is Wednesday, May 7th, 8 p.m. Eastern at SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview. We'll talk about that, if not next week, the week after. And at some point, not now though. We've covered a good amount in this time. Let's do it a little bit differently.
Sean's going to be working on nostalgia next episode.
Oh God. Yeah. I'll have to talk out my history with the Fire. So this is the one the Fire fans can tune into and hate.
Gather around, kids.
Yeah.
Gather around as Sean's got. Speaking of where to tell us the cat picks, Sean Spence, where should they be sending them to, and where should they subscribe to on Patreon?
Okay, so I'm shield chafing on virtually all media, SEYLD, SEEAFING. Yes, I am old enough that I don't have to have any numbers on my username. The Patreon is called Words Without Shapes. It is essays on soccer and everything it touches, which is something I came up with because he had to fill in the little box when you were creating the Patreon thing. I don't know if that's actually true. It's mostly City. So I think at this point we just need to conclude that City is the center of the universe and touches everything.
Oh yeah, Adam. Where can folks find you, and where can folks find all Majors TV content, Majors Detroit content?
Majors content at TMSX Detroit on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok.
Fucking Threads.
Find us on the web, detroit.themajorsports.com, and youtube.com/themajorstv. You can find me at
hit that subscribe.
Yep, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Also subscribe to Make City Make Spence as well on any major podcasting platform. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review and help the show move up in that algorithm. And you can find me at TMSNextAdam on Twitter and Blue Sky.
You can find me Twitter, Instagram, Discord at GM Comats, Blue Sky, gmcomats.bsky.social. Also, shout out to our other Detroit City FC podcasts on the Majors Detroit channel 451. They are at youtube.com at channel 451. Go check out their last episode. Our dear friend Jam guested. Highly recommend. And yeah, it's like I said, it's been a fantastic week. The vibes are continuing to be rolling for Detroit City FC. We'll be back next week, hopefully about continuation of the vibes as they open up Jägermeister League Cup stuff. But until next time, for Sean Spence, Adam Hernandez, I'm Garrett Comats. Thanks everybody for checking out another Make City Make Spence. See ya later, everyone.